Okay, so I think we can start. Good morning, everybody, our distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends. I'd like to welcome you again to the third day of the Anticipatory Leadership Summit 2025, hosted by Sabancı University in partnership with GESTA, Geneva Science and Diplomacy Anticipator. It's wonderful to see you here. And over the past 2 days, as you know, we have been sharing meaningful conversations on how science, diplomacy, and leadership come together to shape a better future for all of us. On day one, on the opening day, we started by laying the foundations. We explored how anticipatory leadership helps us understand a complex world and turn foresight into action. On day two, yesterday, we turned that vision into innovation in action. We looked at the technologies and ideas transforming our world, from digital transformation and circular economy to future industrial technologies, artificial intelligence, and cybersecurity. Today, on day three, we focus on the future of people, society, and the planet. Today, we will explore how science and innovation can drive sustainable solutions, from how we power our world, how we feed it, and how quantum technologies are reshaping what's possible for generations to come. Again, a very wide scope, as you know. Each session today will challenge us to think about more than innovation. It will ask us to think about impact and how leadership can make sure progress truly serves humanity and the planet. As Just reminds us, the next decade will belong to those who see first and shape it together. Now, in today's program, the opening session, we have a very special contribution. We are honored to have Dr. Fatih Birol, Executive Director of the International Energy Agency and one of the world's leading voices on global energy policy. Dr. Birol unfortunately could not be here with us in person, but he joins us via a special dialogue with Mr. Bora Şekip Günay, Director of Sabancı University Istanbul International Center for Energy and Climate. In this conversation, Dr. Birol addresses some of the most critical questions shaping the future of energy. Please, let's turn our attention to this taped conversation, and then I will introduce the members of our panel for the rest of the discussion. Thank you.
We are very pleased to host this special conversation as part of GESTA Anticipatory Leadership Summit hosted by Sabancı University. We are truly honored to be joined by someone who is a distinguished example of anticipation and leadership, with his vision, insights, foresights, and long-standing contributions to the complex global energy issues and much beyond. It's an honor and privilege to welcome Dr. Fatih Birol, the Executive Director of the International Energy Agency. Thank you very much, Dr. Birol, for being with us.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you. Let me start with electricity, electrification. We talk about electrification a lot, and you have recently emphasized that we are entering what you call the age of electricity. Mm-hmm. Could you elaborate this for us? What are the drivers behind this, and what would be the implications for the overall energy system?
So first of all, with pleasure, and many thanks to Sabancı University, a distinguished university, to invite me to make a modest contribution to this very important event. When we look at the history of the economy, energy is a major driver of the economic progress and the social life. To make our economies work, the factories work, our lights keeping the lights on and the cars are moving ahead. And 200 years ago, it was coal, the age of coal, which gave a boost to global economy. The age of coal, you remember the novels of Balzac or Zola, miners getting coal out of the mines and making the economy work. This age of coal has been replaced by the age of oil and gas that we are in now. And we see that the oil and gas is used heavily for our economy, and it will be used for many years to come. Having said that, we see, when we look at the numbers, the age of electricity is coming. I hear the steps of age of electricity. Electricity demand around the world is skyrocketing, very strong growth. Why we see this strong growth? In addition to the usual drivers of electricity demand around the world, I see three relatively new drivers which gives a boost to global electricity demand growth. Number one, artificial intelligence. So for artificial intelligence, which is a global race among the countries to be a front runner, data centers are crucial. And these data centers need a lot of electricity. There is no AI without electricity. So 24/7 we need electricity, and it gives a big push to electricity demand. This is number one. Number two, air conditioners. Around the world, the number of air conditioners are going very, very strongly because as a result of climate change, the temperatures are getting higher, and still many parts of the world, in Africa, in Nigeria, only 5% of the households have an air conditioner. In Indonesia, 18%, India, 20%. With the increasing income levels and the temperatures, people buy air conditioner, and this gives another boost to electricity demand. And the third one is electric cars. 4 years ago, only a few percent of all the cars sold in the world was electric, and today, 25% of the cars sold in the world are electric. This electricity. So as a result of that, we are seeing a big push for electricity demand, and electricity demand will grow very strongly. The question is, now I stop here, with which technologies, with which fuels we are going to meet that demand growth. Nuclear, natural gas, solar, wind, hydropower, there are many options, and all the countries are thinking about that. What are the best options for them economically, from a security point of view, and also point of view of the sustainability.
I will come to nuclear later on, but linked to this electrification, we see critical minerals and supply chains. This topic is very high on your agenda, your latest statements. Yes. You are constantly calling attention to the vital, if I may say, role of critical minerals, their supply chains, and the risks and implications, not only for the energy sector, but much beyond, including economy, defense, and many others. Yes. What are the biggest challenges and risks, and what should we do to address these challenges timely?
Yeah. Now, in my view, critical minerals today, it is position and the role in the economy and security is the situation of oil in 1970s when we saw this crisis. We don't have a crisis yet for critical minerals, but it is becoming a major issue because many of the critical minerals, such as lithium, such as copper, such as cobalt, such as gallium, they are used across the economy to build cars, to build chips, to build drones, defense, for artificial intelligence, for everything. And as it happens, one country in the world, which is China, has an oversized role in the critical minerals mining and refining. I don't know what, if anything, China will do. But I believe for energy security, my golden rule number one is diversification. What we see in the critical minerals domain, the world is not going into diversification, but more and more concentration. Therefore, in energy, having an over-reliance on one single country, one single company, one single trade route is always risky. We have to diversify. From that point of view, I have been saying since a few years, and now people are understanding slowly but surely, that the critical minerals will have an important role in the country's economy's future, and I very much hope that our voice is heard better, so that there's a diversification for the future security of our energy systems.
When you talk about energy security and diversification, I would like to come to a special case, which was a crisis, energy crisis, true energy crisis for Europe.
Yeah.
Russia, Ukraine, energy security challenges for Europe, and the lack of diversification. How do you see the current situation in Europe's energy security and the overall energy system of the European economy?
So, for Europe, we are not in a good place in Europe as far as energy is concerned. But we did not come to this situation in only 1 or 2 years. In my view, it is the result of strategic mistake, historical strategic mistakes Europe did. I think when I look at the future and the past, I see at least 3 major historic mistakes Europe did. Number 1, over-reliance on one single country. Europe got a big chunk of its energy from one single exporter, which is Russia. You don't do it. Even it is the country which is the friendliest, which is this and that country, you don't do it. You have to diversify it. And I said it several times. Europe should diversify, but Europe, including the large economies in Europe, had the over-reliance on Russia, and when Russia, after the, as you mentioned, Russia-Ukraine war, cut the energy, we saw the consequence. This is number 1. The number 2, European electricity in the 1990s, more than 1/3 of it came from nuclear power. But after a while, Europe turned its back to nuclear power, and this very soon coming down to 15%. And we lost a big advantage there as Europe. This is number 2. And number 3, today, renewables around the world are making a big push. And when I say renewables, it's mainly solar energy. And more than 80% of the solar panels in the world today are manufactured in China. But 20 years ago, it was Europe that started the solar marathon. Put a lot of subsidies, Germany, Spain, Italy. But after a few years, Europe dropped the ball, China took it over, and China is the number 1 today. As a result of these mistakes Europe did, today we have energy prices in Europe, which is much more expensive compared to Europe's economic rivals. Natural gas prices in Europe are 4 times higher than the United States. Electricity prices in Europe are 3-4 times higher than China. How can a European petrochemical sector or the industry, the iron steel or car manufacturer can compete with their partners in China or United States, which enjoy much lower energy prices? So this is a big dilemma for Europe. Therefore, in my view, Europe has to come up with a new energy strategy, which needs to put electrification at the center. Europe doesn't have huge oil and gas resources, and will never have. There's no potential. Of course, we'll use oil and gas in years to come, make good trade balances, but building the European economy European industry's next chapter should be, in my view, centered around electrification.
Again, linked to electricity, very much linked to electricity. And as I said, nuclear power. My last question will be about nuclear power, Dr. Birol, because 3 years ago, I remember you mentioned that nuclear power would make a comeback.
Yeah.
And this year, I think we are seeing the signals of that.
Yeah.
From your perspective, what is the current status of nuclear power globally, and what do you expect for its future in terms of technologies, in terms of regions?
Now, nuclear power is a technology that some countries like, some countries don't like, and within the countries they like, they change their views throughout the time. This government comes, the other government goes, they change their views. But in my view, nuclear power for many countries is a very important technology which provides electricity 24/7, the domestic electricity generation, and doesn't create emissions. And given the critical importance of energy security today, which is in many cases almost equivalent to the national security, I think nuclear power is making a big comeback, as I said a few years ago. And our numbers show today, 2025, nuclear electricity generation, as we have predicted 3 years ago, is the highest in the history, 2025. It will grow. This is coming from the new builds, new nuclear power plants in the Middle East, in Korea, in China, and elsewhere. Second, it is coming from the extension of lifetime of existing nuclear power plants, injecting some money, refurbishing them, and extending the 10, 20 years in Europe, in the United States, and elsewhere. And third, I am hopeful that the more flexible and smaller nuclear power plants, as we call them, small modular reactors, around 2030s, we see the light of the day. So putting them together, I think nuclear power's comeback will be strong in many countries, from North America to Japan, Korea, Europe, developing Asia, Middle East, and some African countries. But let's don't forget that the renewables are also growing, which is cheaper and easy to install. And I see that the future of electricity will be met more and more by renewables, nuclear power. Of course, we will some natural gas in some countries too. But nuclear is definitely making a comeback. And here, there is a role for nuclear industry, I finish with this, to deliver on time and on budget the plants. Because nuclear industry doesn't have to be very frank, especially in Europe and North America, doesn't have a good record. Lots of overcosts and lots of delays for nuclear power projects to finish. So therefore, nuclear will make a comeback, but the role of nuclear industry here is crucial.
Dr. Birol, thank you very much. You underlined, as always, many significant topics. You underlined the future opportunities as well as challenges and risks that for which we should be very careful, like the one about critical minerals.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your leadership as well, your visionary leadership for the future of global energy system. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We thank Dr. Fatih Birol and, of course, Mr. Bora Güray for this very insightful conversation. And this conversation also highlights the importance and the role of our Energy and Climate Center, ICEC, in leading the narrative in energy policies in this country and also beyond the boundaries of Turkey. We are very proud as Sabancı University to be part of this very crucial discussion through our Center on Energy and Climate. Now I would like to invite the panelists to the stage. Mr. Bora Şekip Güray, who will lead as the moderator. Mr. Elçin İbadov, the CEO of SOCAR. Ms. Yasemin Hoşder Öztekin, Country Managing Director of Hitachi Energy. Professor Ahmet Evin, Senior Scholar in Istanbul Policy Center and former Dean of the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences in our university, Sabancı University, and Dr. Murat Kaya, faculty member in Engineering and Natural Sciences in Sabancı University. So, ladies and gentlemen, please, the stage is yours.
Teşekkürler.
Çok teşekkürler.
Teşekkürler, sağ olun. Dersiniz.
Bu sırayla oturalım isterseniz.
Teşekkürler.
Çok teşekkür.
Hocam sizi böyle ben oraya mı yapacağım? Hocam da böyle mi olur? Şimdi gündemimiz, konumuz enerjinin geleceği. Tabii Fatih Bey'in söyledikleri bizim panelimiz için önemli bir altlık oluşturdu. Özellikle global perspektifte. Dolayısıyla burada aslında bazı konulara biraz daha detaylı bakabilmeyi ve özellikle gelecek perspektiflerini bu değerli panelden alabilmeyi ben hedefliyorum. Diverse bir panel oluşturmaya gayret ettik. Çok değerli panelistlerimiz var. Yusuf Hocam takdimlerinde söylediler. Hem endüstriden liderlerimiz var hem de akademiden bu konularla ilgili bizim de birlikte yakın çalıştığımız hocalarımız var. Dolayısıyla farklı perspektiflerden Fatih Bey'in de değindiği konularda gelecek vizyonlarını, gelecek öngörülerini almaya gayret edeceğim önümüzdeki dakikalar içerisinde. Birkaç tur yapabiliriz diye düşündüm, planladım. Hatta önden de biraz konuştuk. Eğer zamanı verimli kullanabilirsek aslında 3 tur farklı konuları konuşabiliriz diye düşünüyorum. Elçin Bey, sizinle başlamak isterim. Enerji güvenliği. Fatih Bey de birkaç yerde değindi. Enerji güvenliği çeşitlendirme için daha fazla çeşitlendirme gerekiyor enerji güvenliği için. Hem kritik mineraller boyutu var, hem geleneksel yakıtlarla ilişkisi var, hem de elektrifikasyonla ilişkisi var ve çok daha kapsamlı, çok daha derinlikli hale geliyor enerji güvenliği. Siz baktığınız zaman enerji güvenliğinin geleceğini nasıl görüyorsunuz? Daha güvenli bir enerji geleceği için nasıl hazırlık yapmalıyız? Ve tabii biraz da Türkiye'yi konuşalım istiyorum. Türkiye'nin gelecekte enerji güvenliğindeki rolü nasıl gelişebilir, nasıl güçlenebilir? Öyle başlayalım.
Çok teşekkürler. Tabii Fatih Bey her şeyi öyle güzel özetliyor ki üzerine yeni bir şey söylemek her zaman zor oluyor ama genel olarak enerji güvenliği eskiden biraz daha var mı yok mu sorusuydu. Yani biraz mevcudiyet sorusu işte. Petrol bulabiliyor muyuz? Doğalgaz getirebiliyor muyuz ülkeye yoksa getiremiyor muyuz? Bugün ise artık o var mı yok mu'nun ötesinde biraz daha nasıl, kimle, hangi modelde, ne kadar sürdürülebilir, hatta ne kadar adil soruları da aynı cümle içerisinde kurulmaya başladı. Çünkü güvenlik, enerji güvenliği bu sorulara da cevap bulmayı gerektiriyor. Sadece metanın kendisini bulmak yeterli olmuyor. O anlamda enerji güvenliği bugün artık teknolojik, biraz ticari, biraz jeopolitik, hatta biraz da insani bir fenomen haline gelmeye başladı diyebiliriz. Yakın zamanlarda Fatih Bey'in liderlik ettiği Uluslararası Enerji Ajansı'nın bir raporunu okurken şunu gördüm. Yenilenebilir enerji yatırımları 2,2 trilyon dolara ulaşmış. Bu yani karbon bazlı enerji yatırımlarının yaklaşık 2 katı. Ama burada çok büyük bir kırılganlık mevcut. Bunu da özellikle finansmana erişim ve şebekeye erişim konuları öncelikle frenleyen faktörler olarak öne çıkıyor. Neden buna frenleyen diyorum? Bugün yenilenebilir enerjide şebekeye bağlanmayı bekleyen, yani yapılmış yatırım hazır, bugün elektrik verebilir ama şebekeye bağlanmayı bekleyen 1700 gigawatt bir hacim mevcut dünyada. Şebekeler çünkü buna hazır değil. Bu büyük bir israf, bu büyük bir finansmanın da israfı, aynı zamanda kaynakların da israfı ve elektrik talebinin
And as Dr. Birol mentioned, this is actually a big burden, I would say, that prevents us from meeting the energy demands. Smart networks, digital twins, foreseeability or predictive systems. If there are more incentives allocated to that, then we can get a big advantage. Number two is artificial intelligence. When we think about the role of artificial intelligence, AI-ready data centers these days are requesting great amounts of energy. They have their own cooling systems. I mean, by all means, they need more and more energy wherever we have AI. But then again, AI helps us with the prediction systems to use energy in a more efficient manner. Preventive maintenance is taken care of in a better fashion thanks to AI as well. Turkey, in this sense, is actually going through the bottleneck with leapfrogs. I mean, we have all the resources. We have young engineers, we have data centers, we have the fiber infrastructure. Well, I'm going to boost 3,500 kilometers long fiber lines Sokar has, and other companies also have such infrastructure as well. So we do have the resources. As long as we use AI properly, we will benefit from that. Critical minerals, Dr. Birol referred. The thing with the critical minerals is that demand is on the rise by 10%. We're going, I mean, 10% may sound small, but think about world economy is growing by 3-4% these days, and the demand for minerals is growing by 10%. However, investments in critical minerals are going down by 20%. That's a dilemma. This is related to the structural disruption. It's not a market phenomenon. This should be used as an opportunity for the next 2-3 years. Since investments have come down, we have to show more courage, and we should be making more investments. Both from the exploration perspective and refinery perspective, there are good opportunities for Turkey. Both lithium, cathode materials. Turkey has many advantages when it comes to these minerals and materials. So when we are able to do that, we will be having more energy independence from molecule to minerals, from molecule to metals. I even have this M adventure. It's the adventure of the letter M. From the molecule to the mineral, from the mineral to the metal, from the metal to the material. I mean, we are at the heart of material sciences. This is Sabancı University undertaking great work regarding material engineering, from material to microchip, and from microchip to logic or reasoning, which starts with an M in Turkish. So the added value that we get from molecule increases as we switch to mineral, and then from material to microchip. In this adventure of letter M, the faster we are, the more advanced we will be when it comes to energy security. Finally, gas. When it comes to gas supply, Turkey has gone beyond that threshold to be a supplier. We have We have been awarded the European Championship Cup, so we should be running for World Championship. I mean, we should be a reference point as Turkey rather than a transit country. To become a reference point, natural gas demand in Europe is dropping by 15%, but it is on the rise in the Middle East. And Turkey is at the heart of things with TANAP pipeline, other pipelines. Turkey is in a position to show reaction or to take action. Ministry of Energy is making important leaps or moves, I should say, so we can create an Anatolian index hub. It's not only the price, but the market conditions may be determined here as a reference point. So in short, if I'm to make a summary, integration, innovation, and projection are key. I mean, they all sound French, I know, but these three factors are important pillars for energy security. Especially projection is key because the team is composed of a certain number of people. We know where we have to invest, but we need some tactics. How much should we invest where? Because resources are always limited, so projection helps in that respect. As SOCAR Turkey, we are building a foresight lab to have some foreseeability for the future. We are working on some future models so that we can come up with some no-regret points that are common points, and we'll go from there. Because in a world where we don't prepare any scenarios, in a world where we do not make any projection for the future, then it is doomed to be a failure. You plan to fail or you fail to plan. So when you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So we work on such scenarios. Let me conclude. Thank you, Elçin Bey. Thank you for this general evaluation, and thank you for this general perspective that you shared. I have taken notes specific to Turkey. When it comes to critical minerals, there are opportunities, but it's not only search and transfer, cathode material, and this adventure of M. Letter M. That's quite interesting. It is going to have a multiplier effect, and Turkey will become more than a transit country for gas transmission. Turkey is to become a regional commercial hub. But of course, we have to take some steps, of course. But then again, we are on the right track. We are continuing on the right track. And this is going to contribute to the added value, and it's going to reinforce Turkey's geographic and geopolitical role. Thank you very much. Now, Elçin Bey underlined the importance of geopolitics. Now I'd like to turn to you. When we think about the geopolitics of gas, is it more critical when compared with the past? Will it become even more critical in the future? Because we have such analysis, we read such things. Do you also agree, sir? And I also would like to ask you about Turkey. How is Turkey's role in geopolitics to be evolved? Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for these questions. These are the right questions to ask. Energy geopolitics become more and more complicated, and the whole world of energy is being more and more impacted. So all of these questions are proper questions to ask. As I start on, I would like to refer to geopolitica. I wanted to emphasize the importance of geopolitica anyway. We have, for young managers and directors, some suggestions and recommendations to share. Energy world is fastly changing. It has always been changing, but now it is even faster these days. And it is becoming more and more fast. Consumption is on the rise, generation is on the rise, new energy types are emerging. These are bringing along some agreements, some cooperation, as well as some disagreements. This fast change, in addition to this fast change, there is a process which stays put. Geopolitica is to continue shaping the destiny of the energy world, changing dynamics, globalizing world. There is a competition for critical minerals, and energy is no longer composed of supply and demand. It's composed of strategy, sovereignty, and survival. Directors, managers, especially executive directors and CEOs, should be aware of the fact that energy geopolitics are on the forefront. It's not in the background. We should take it for granted. And we should also consider the following. For instance, Russia's invasion in Ukraine is not only hurting gas transmission to Europe. It is at the same time redefining energy security for the whole continent. LNG terminals have been built in an extremely fast manner, and efforts have been spent in order to bring more diversification. Another example is about China, rare minerals and battery production. China has dominance when it comes to these two domains, and this has created a new access. So countries that miss this development will be left behind. As you know, these days there are tensions between Washington, D.C. and Beijing, and the main focus is on the rare minerals. Who will send how much minerals where? Should they be exported or not? As for Africa, Africa is also significant because Africa is the continent where the population rise is at its highest, and at the same time, Africa is fastly developing. Maybe it is the one and only continent that develops the fastest. Green hydrogen is on the rise, and this is having an impact on investment flows all around the world. That is, it's reshaping the investment flows all around. Energy security, as a definition, is being broadened, and energy security is not only limited to supply continuity. Climate change, digital infrastructure, critical minerals, international cooperation. So as Dr. Birol mentioned in his interview, all these factors that he also referred to are quite valid. Traditional risks, we still have the conventional risks. And among the new risks, we have cyber attacks, climate-related migration moves. This is quite critical. Technology competition is also a part of that. With energy transformation, there is a transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy resources. So that changes the basis, manufacturing basis, production basis. Critical minerals are only intensified in a couple of countries, and this suggests that there will be dependency on certain supply chains. These are not isolated individual developments. These are all a part of the paradigm shift. And all of these are to suggest that energy strategies will go hand in hand with geopolitical analysis. This is obvious. From fossil fuels to renewable energy resources, we have this transition, and some experts suggest that energy geopolitical relationship will weaken. Some experts claim, but I don't agree with this. This is wrong. On the basis of this approach, renewable energy are to be generated. Renewable energy resources are only local, so energy dependency will diminish and geopolitical tensions will diminish as well, some claim. But then again, energy transmission is quite a complex structure, and new energy risks are ignored in this approach, so this is not valid. Energy transmission is not going to reduce the importance of energy geopolitics, right? Just on the contrary, it's going to make it even more extended.
The question should be, is my company ready for the next geopolitical shock? Are we building resilience to our supply chains in the area of energy? My recommendation to all upper-level managements, please hire an expert who is well-versed in geopolitical importance. In the context of geopolitics, I will focus on Turkey's geography. Global geopolitical and geoeconomic balances will change. It is the biggest investment in the world. It's right next to us. Which one? China's Belt and Road Initiative. What we call the supercontinent, Eurasia, from Indian Ocean until the North Pole, from Atlantic to the Pacific. This is a very wide-ranging continent. Transforming it into one economic power, and with the investments, it's going to play a dominant role in the economy of the entire region. In order to prove the importance of geopolitics, we don't need another example. These new connections and new geopolitical realities, of course, will be coming our way. Turkey's role here, I'd like to touch upon it briefly. Turkey is successful in overcoming geopolitical problems. For instance, energy dependency has been reduced by using green energy resources. We're going to be listening Yasemin Hanım about electrification just now. So in that context, what I'd like to add is, in electrification, China is leading the way. For instance, in the Tibetan Plateau, 420 kilometers square, a solar energy park is being built, and it is being commissioned now. There was a long article on this. I don't remember it. It's either in New York Times or Financial Times. Emerging countries, energy consumption there is rapidly increasing. If we take note of that, the momentum in China will also impact the Caspian area and Turkey. Road and belt projects and connecting roads will become urbanized. What I mean by that is, from New York to New Jersey down to Washington, D.C., Route 1, for instance, just like that, a very busy, it's a settlement area and a commercial road and a commercial belt, for instance. This is what we call the middle corridor from Kazakhstan through Caspian to Turkey and to the Black Sea. The energy export commercial road that comes from China, if we add electricity to that, and we have the capacity to add it, it's a very important energy road. Last, None of what I have said is a product of my imagination. The non-financial sector, which is essentially important. Analyzing that sector can only happen with collaboration from the academia and industry. And the Sabancı University is providing this, and this is a privilege for all of us. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, geopolitical energy security. You talked about electricity as well. So did Erçin Bey. Fatih Bey said the era of electricity. 25 years ago, I guess the share of electricity in the ultimate energy range in the world is 20%. And in future projections, it's going to be increasing up until 50% in the next 20, 30 years. And analysis for Turkey is taking us to a similar place. 1/5 of the energy demand of the world is met by electricity now, whereas in the future, half of it will be met by electricity. The future of electricity, Yasemin Hanım. And of course, the grids, because we know that the spine of the system are the grids on the supply side. There are many dynamics. There's growth in renewables, but intermittent solar, wind, there's a fluctuating profile. And the demand side also, with electrical mobility, with heat pumps, and with other solutions, it's more complex compared with the past. So demand profiles are becoming more complicated, and in order to manage this better, we need stronger, more flexible grids. How do you see the future of electricity opportunities, challenges? How will the grids be different? And of course, Turkey. Ahmet Hoca talked about this, Turkey's future role. Looking around, how will it be? How will Turkey be in the electrified region of? Thank you very much. In fact, I'm very enthusiastic to explain this in the panels that I join. This is something I try to underline because, as you said, as a sector, up until now, it's a transformation and change we have not experienced before. The sources that energy is produced from, they are transitioning from fossil to electricity, and on the one hand, increased need for energy on the energy manufacturing side, and in the points of consumption, its conduction and distribution. We have a lot to do. But here, let's produce energy and then connect it to the grid. Unfortunately, that does not happen. As has been said, the nature of renewable electricity, it has variables, and because of the variables, balancing supply and demand is not as easy as the conventional systems. A revolving generator, certain distribution points. This is how you would take the structure to points of consumption, but increasingly it's decentralized. Points of consumption can also become points of production. Lots of variability, and energy resources need to be connected to the grid. It's a complex structure that we're evolving towards. But are we desperate? No, we're not desperate. But the investments and the structures that have been made need to be completed with different technologies. What are those technologies? What we call power electronics. There's a power electronics, we may say. Thanks to power electronics, it replaced conventional production, renewable energy, and it creates indecision. In order to overcome this, power electricity is coming, using the same capacity with higher efficiency. Again, that's the idea. And this is how we'll add it to the system. Of course, in the upcoming period, there will be storage technologies on grids. These will be in intense use. Currently, in our country as well, storage investments have started. These storage technologies are because of renewable energy. It's in order to manage its impact on the grid. So we'll be seeing these investments a lot more, not just in our country, but around the world at the point of the transformation of renewable energy in all geographies, so that this will happen. Bora talked about this. As of 2050, all over the world, energy supply, 50% of it will come from renewables, wind and solar. That's the goal. In our country, that rate is 55%. So we have brave targets. This power electronics-based civil capacity centers, STOPCOM solutions at every tension level, need to be integrated into the grid. And these battery solutions need to be rapidly invested in order to overcome the indecision. As Turkey, we are not going through the restriction of connecting renewables to the grid, but these technologies, of course, should rapidly be commissioned. Another thing we're going to be hearing more and more of, and size-wise requires high investment figures, SVCD technologies. Here, conventionally, HVDC, energy being transported with direct current. It was used in international electricity power or the security of the supply. Later on, offshore wind was connected to the mainland. That's when these lines came in. From the geography where it's produced to transporting it to the geography where it's consumed. DC transport lines are more logical as far as return on investment is concerned. Worldwide, in many countries, from point of production to point of consumption, it's used for the transportation. HVDC lines, on the one hand, the transformative centers, thanks to the new technologies, at the same frequency level, it contributes to the management of the grid. So it's among the investment, short-term and mid-term investments of many countries. Something else that we need to focus more on the future, especially geopolitical risk and, in fact, the backbone of the energy, the electrical infrastructure, cyber-wise and physically, needs to be protected. Cybersecurity, when you transition to digital, it's something that you have to think about anyway. And on the one hand, in different geographies, critical electricity infrastructure will be protected by robot dogs or security systems, because especially digital and in all other types of comfort-related or health-related or transport-related services, we can only access them through electricity. So security should be underlined. Last, something else that needs to be on our agenda, sustainability and carbon footprint. The biggest triggering factor in transitioning to, as you know, we had a 1.5 degree of goals. We are kind of deviated from it currently, but just because we have deviated, we should not let go of it totally. So in the investments that have been made, if at all possible, more nature-friendly, to quote an example, a copper cable instead of using it for communication. If it can be replaced by a digital technology, then this is good for carbon footprint, should be preferred. Again, in the grid context, SF6, the fact that it's not being used in grid elements, again, it should be replaced with nature-friendly solutions. So all decisions or investments, first of all, should be considered from the context of a carbon footprint. Another point where we can do this is, of course, utility of the assets that we have, and maybe using them for different purposes. These should be on our agenda more and more from the perspective of energy grids. Now, about Turkey, some additions. I talked about it just now. 2050 around the world, the target is 50%, and our target is 55% to meet our needs from renewable. There are things that need to be done in Turkey and things that need to be done by Turkish investors and EPCs, coming up with the infrastructure in Turkey and in the region. Just like it has happened in natural gas lines, electricity-wise as well, we should be playing an important role. There are significant opportunities in this context. That's what I can say. Turkey's geographical position and its ongoing collaborations with both East and the West, and the connections will help it. Electrification is going to be significant and critical in our lives from now on. We have taken many notes, but a more decentralized energy future, more distributed energy future, more digital. So you underlined cybersecurity. You gave sustainability messages, managing carbon footprint in the electrical system of the future. I guess we need to add efficiency as well. Material utility efficiency and energy efficiency. And more efficient energy systems so that we can increase added value. Murat Hoca. We talked about many things, in fact. And I'm going to ask a connected question. Of course, energy technologies will be supporting these. We talked about some of these, but there are technologies we have not yet talked about. Battery or energy storage more generally. Yasemin Hanım touched upon it. AI topic is one of the most important driving force of the electricity age, said Fatih Bey. And Action Bey said that there's an important opportunity for Turkey there. Digitization, we always talk about digitization and energy. New energy technologies, battery and others, digitization, AI. What sort of a future awaits us from your perspective? And what will that mean for Turkey? What should we be prepared for? Thank you very much, Boroja. Now, as an academician, I'm obsessed with words, of course. The name of the organization is Anticipatory Leadership, but what we understand from anticipation, pointless points, or this is how it's going to be in the future. If that is what it is, unfortunately, in the energy sector, this does not happen that way. And all of our panelists, in fact, jointly underlined that the risk is on the increase. Energy is such a sector, it's impacted by all risks. Politics is with energy. Some technologies have matured. We can see where they're going to go, but some we still don't know. We still have technology risks. Decisions taken by governments, local or internationally, impact greatly. Climate-related risks, heat waves, droughts, they impact greatly. The general course of economy also is a big factor of impact. Under so many uncertainties, how can we anticipate? It's very difficult. But when we zoom out, and this is what Jesta really means. How can we build a future-proof and resilient system, they ask. The key is the future-proof and resilient. In fact, we cannot anticipate future, especially in the energy sector, because uncertainties are too many and they are increasing. However, if we characterize those uncertainties well, accurately, then ourselves, our companies, our countries, companies, we can position all those much better. That's how we should look at it. Action Bay, in fact, talked about this. Industry analyses are very important. I would like to elaborate on this and connect it to AI at the end. Classically, companies in such an uncertainty-intensive setting, they do industry analysis. Strategy departments sit down and expected future scenarios, several good scenarios, several bad scenarios are worked on. And of course, these scenarios never mean that this is going to happen, but at least they give you a range about what is likely to happen. And you, as a manager, look at it and take a gamble. You say, okay, I can see, I'll take the risk, I'll make the investment. But of course, industry work is generally static. They cannot go into too much detail, and they cannot be updated very rapidly on real time when something goes bad, when there's a new development. Going back and working on it is not that easy.
Yapay zeka.
At this point, AI, especially generative and creative AI, has started presenting something to us. As you know, creative AI is creating things after learning certain things from the past patterns and generates new content. Of course, we can use them to answer some questions like GPT does, or we can use this in order to prepare movies in which cats run after bears. They look realistic. Or we may use them to prepare scenarios for the future. Rather than preparing 3 static scenarios, we can make use of AI in order to develop scenarios that will have foresight for the future. Modeling could be done. And considering the possibilities, hundreds and thousands of scenarios may be worked on, and then we can take a look at these scenarios and come up with more risk-minimizing, resilient decisions. So, of course, AI has so many applications in the energy sector, but especially this JESTA's future-proof, resilient systems approach. Especially AI may provide scenarios for that future. I'd like to emphasize that. Aside from that, when I say creative AI, we have classical AI, we have digitalization beneath it, or data analytics, and below that we have digitalization. We are sometimes focusing too much on the final point. We say, wow, there is this AI, it may resolve some problems at our company, we say, but then again, at your company, if you don't have the culture of data analytics, then you won't have data and or approach to feed in AI. You should not expect much. Or if you have not undertaken digitalization, if you still continue with the physical systems, for instance, I had a chance to visit Star Refinery in Izmir that belongs to SOCAR, and there are hundreds and thousands of sensors that are functioning. If you build such a sensor system, on top of that you may bring AI and you may do a lot. Or say you're in the services sector, you complete your digitalization, AI may offer you great added value on top of that. But without these, without digitalization and data analytics, you cannot do much by using AI or generative or creative AI. These are the prerequisites we should consider. But maybe all of them have one more prerequisite underneath: workforce qualified workforce. Without qualified workforce, we can't do anything. And now, if we focus on Turkey specifically, what this means, if you ask me, the biggest shortcoming we have these days is not about critical minerals or other developments. Maybe the biggest challenge we have in the long run is actually something related to the qualified workforce. We are losing our workforce. I mean, this is the room that I use for some of my classes. Last year, I asked out of curiosity which students would like to go overseas and who would like to stay here in Turkey. 80% of my class said that they are willing to go overseas to live and work. This is a big problem, and we should consider that, take that seriously. Aside from that, of course, AI has so many smart applications like reservoir characterization in natural gas sectors or management of a transmission system. Mistakes or errors can be detected and taken care of in a fast manner. These are also critical. As Yasemin Hanım mentioned, the transmission grid, this was very important anyway. It is going to become even more important. That grid is going to be planned, optimized, and maintained and taken care of with AI technologies, and these are all critical technologies. Aside from that, I'd like to talk about other technologies. International Energy Agency also confirms that in its reports regarding this transmission. There are so many technologies. Some are going great. For instance, batteries are quite successful, and we see the impact of that on electrical vehicles, as well as storage technologies that's becoming more popular in Turkey. PV, solar photovoltaic systems are quite successful. Turkey has started rather slowly, but has made a quantum leap recently. So this is all a part of the future scenarios. Wind, even if the wind is not as fast as it used to be, still it's going good. But then again, there are some technologies that people had high expectations on. Hydrogen. 3 years ago, no matter which conference we attended, everyone was talking about hydrogen. There were big expectations, great expectations. Fossil fuel industry likes hydrogen, and renewable energy sector loves hydrogen due to different reasons. It's a great molecule. It may be really handy, but at this point in time, people started asking themselves whether the impact that we expect to see from hydrogen. Carbon capturing technologies, we again have high hopes. Hopefully they will become a reality in some critical applications. We can have carbon fossil fuels and still have no harmful gases released in the air. The expectations have not been met yet. Synthetic gases, again, it may be a remedy for so many issues, but still we have not been able to see the impetus yet. And nuclear, as Dr. Birol mentioned, only certain countries have large nuclear power stations, but SMRs, small modular refineries or stations. We see only a few examples. The number is not that great. We can add more technologies to that. In some areas, we're successful. In some other areas, not yet. We're not there yet, as the whole world. There are so many technologies that require the necessary workforce and also the investments or initiatives so that we can save the future. Thank you very much, Murat Hoca. This is point forecast rather than projections. You refer to the ambiguities as well. You refer to the possibilities and probabilities, and you talked about this with the scenario analysis. AI, of course, may facilitate the whole process. We have taken note of that. this is going to be on the agenda of the academia as well as the business world. Foresight Lab, Mr. Ibalov mentioned that they are building a lab, and we also are looking into this in more detail. Let me mention that as well. Yes, some of the technologies are doing great. Some other technologies have not met the expectations yet, and these hopefully will reach such a level that they will be contributing. And of course, human resources. I also would like to refer to that. We have to preserve, retain the human resources and further develop it. I will be asking a separate question on that. It's an important question. I have made a note for myself. So GESTA, as Murat Bey also mentioned, next 5 years, 10 years, and 25 years. Let's fast forward to 2050, 25 years later. Let's remember the year 2000. Before I came, I took a look at the developments in order to refresh my mind. Wind and solar, as we discussed today, wind and solar and their share in energy generation back in the year 2000 was only a few points, but these days it has reached 20%. Some of them, of course, have come down, relatively speaking. Another thing is electrical mobility. Again, in some countries, it's had only a few points of a market share, but then again, as Dr. Birol mentioned, 1 out of 4 cars sold is an EV, is an electrical vehicle. Another thing is about sustainability. Yes, in the year 2000 we had it, but then again it has now has born, and it's a flash and bone. People are talking about this. Countries, companies, and institutions are focusing more and more sustainability, environmental sustainability, social sustainability. In the last 25 years, we have gone through many changes and transformations. And as we consider 2050 and as we think about all the factors, what do you think will be extremely different? It may be a theme, it may be a specific segment in the value chain, it may be a business line, or it may be a factor. Which factor do you think will change by the year 2050? Which ones will be more determinant? Elçin Bey, shall we start with you? One factor to mention is synchronization, because data, temperature, hydrogen, carbon, we have to generate them all. But then again, they all interact with one another. So the synchronization of this all will be crucially important. What to generate when, with what carbon intensification, how to synchronize them. This will be an extremely important factor. And secondly, the soil, the earth, the nature. I mean, energy will be derived from waste rather than the soil. These days, crude oil, solar, wind, all natural resources are used, but in the future they will be mainly orienting towards waste. Waste oil to produce sustainable aviation fuel. From mud, hydrogen will be generated. Cathode from old batteries will be generated. These will be on the forefront. And here we see that the design phase of the material will be extremely important. So whatever you put in, you get it out. So during the design phase, you have to think about the waste stage as well, what this will promise as waste, because it's going to be crucial to contribute to the generation of power. So it's going to be the fuel of the waste, not the fuel of the molecules. So the history of waste, so circular economy. Yasemin Hanım, the same question. Okay. Like it is the case in various domains, we will see more autonomous systems in energy. The complication that I was referring to is something beyond the capacity of human brain. In certain countries, we started hearing blackout news. Analysis show that grids, networks, and systems will reach this status. Signals are being given ahead of time, but due to the reasons we mentioned, this complexity is not only managed by SCADA or other decision-making mechanisms. So AI should be involved. Autonomous systems will be involved. Probably they will kick in by the year 2050, but it's not going to be a abrupt transition. That is going to be a slow transition, like switching to the co-pilot before handing it over. There are a couple of problems like controls. Other than that, technology is ready and we are going to evolve to that direction. And secondly, net zero is something I am hoping to see. Our grid should evolve in that direction, because otherwise with the climatic disasters, we will be encountering the outcome of that. Autonomous systems and structures and access to net zero, keeping net zero targets. Yes, at least we are working for that. Yeah, together, all of us. Professor Ahmet, thank you. I'm going to repeat something. I mean, this is something everyone knows, but let's not forget the importance of that. Briefly speaking, electrification and geopolitical factors that will come along with electrification. When we say geopolitica, we think about Russia, Ukraine, and these days Washington's retro policy is going back to the past. So electrification and materials used for electrification will probably cause new tensions. They will be the reason for new tensions. I mean, we should remember that first of all. And secondly, when we think about geopolitica, there is this point I'd like to touch upon. Currently, 55% of the world population, or let's say 54.5% of the world population, live in the South and Southeast Asia. This ratio will increase. As we tackle with technology, energy, consumption, the Western world is now divided into two. US says something. Europe is trying to do something else. We are focusing too much on this. And of course, we are focusing on China as well, because China is consuming more energy than anyone else. But then again, China has the necessary resources. China, in its long-term plans, do have the resources to implement those long-term plans. But then again, among this 55%, I suppose 17% of that 55% is China. And this is going to increase more and more, especially developing or emerging economies. Emerging economies will be consuming more and more energy. This is also valid for Africa as well. They're consuming more and more energy. And as a geopolitical problem, we can talk about we are talking about a part of the world which we don't consider sufficiently. But then again, we will be encountering issues. I'd like to present that to your attention. Of course, there may be repercussions. There may be many repercussions. Migration may be an outcome of that, tensions. And on top of everything that we discussed, this increasing population in Southeast Asia and the challenges that will come along. We should not forget that. So geopolitics again, but you're saying it's going to be even more complicated and it's going to be concentrated on a different geography. Energy consumption per capita is actually mainly encountering less and less difference, and demand is coming from that part of the world, and energy consumption per capita is increasing in the developing economies as well. Yes, Professor Murat? As a pessimist, I can say that by the year 2050, God forbid, I am expecting certain things. I mean, there's going to be something because there's this accumulation of stress. But then again, whatever that will be, humanity will draw lessons and then will have more comfort.
In geopolitics, in Russia, Middle East, Far East, Asia, after China has been empowered with military and economic power, whatever Germany has done in the past, they're going to want to do raw material wars, marketplace wars. Something may explode in the geopolitical sense. Another ticking bomb is population. Now, suddenly the world population, we see this to be the case in Turkey as well. Our birth rates are declining. 1.4 is the number of children, I think. So what's going to happen with Social Security when our generation gets old? Who will take care of us and pay for our Social Security premiums? Very bad challenges. Many countries will experience the same thing. Japan and Europe are already. Another problem is the future of business. So many autonomous systems. Okay, we had replaced blue collars with machines, farmers with tractors. Now our jobs are on the line. Knowledge worker, those who make a living by using their brain. AI may do these now. Okay, some of us will adapt, new fields will open up, but in the long run, AI, autonomous systems, robots, when they dominate so much, how shall we find job for people? I'm not sure about that either. That will also cause a problem. And this will follow an unbalanced course. There will be heaps of people at one place in the world. Nobody will need them. On the other hand, Europeans are old. Robots will take care of them in hospitals, but there will be 2-3 billion Indians in the world. What are these people going to do? How are they going to make a living? And other countries. All of these things, it will be dystopic, but hopefully there won't be a problem someplace. And there's the climate dimension. We had some hope that we could stop at 1.5 degrees. I don't know if you realize this, but last year we have already exceeded that 1.5 degrees centigrade. Well, the world is still around. It has a cycle of its own. It increases and falls periodically anyway. Last year we exceeded 1.5, but we assume that the cycle is going to decline. The long-term average exceeding 1.5 was the problem, but I think we will no longer be able to defend that 1.5 degrees. If you look at McKinsey reports, scenarios are like 2.5. They started to become defendable scenarios, and increasingly we're taking risks. None of these are deterministic. If we exceed 1.5 degrees, it doesn't mean that heat will kill us. Changes will happen, but we don't know where they will go. So, as we experience floods and droughts, and maybe then we'll go and give more importance to some technologies we currently find very costly. I'm hopeful about the further future, but the next 25 years I'm scared about that. Okay, uncertainties and risks in many factors, and the fact that we should be alert and prepared is the message, I think. I said human resource. We have a time. We make a rapid tour. It's been a very productive session. One rapid tour about human resource. Murat Hoca opened that window a bit for us, but again, let's go to 25 years later, 2050, compared with today in 2050, HR and in skill sets. What will be more deterministic to the managers and to the younger generation? These will be recommendations from you. Okay, let's start again with you. I would like to touch upon three topics. One is data and energy literacy. Synthesis will be very important. Engineer will be able to talk with data. The financier will think with carbon. HR is just motivation intense, energy intense also. These hybrid literacy, energy literacy will be number one. Second, is a bit multidisciplinary. Systemic curiosity and multidisciplinary approach will gain importance. I heard someplace, I don't know where I heard it. Well, I mean, is it those who read a lot know, or who travel a lot who know more? Somebody said it's the one who is the most curious who knows the most, because it throws the light on the future. Among these uncertainties, with AI being so active in our lives, and being able to raise that curiosity in young people and having a multidisciplinary mindset. Profiles of the future is chemist, logistics, and public sciences expert. There will be those hybrid profiles, and ascribing importance to multidiscipline, I think it's an important thing for the future of HR. Third, among all the uncertainties, sometimes I'm asked, I read a lot of tourism articles, what is the most important skill of the future? Absolutely number one, the skill to find meaning in uncertainty. We should achieve in finding meaning in uncertainty. I'm trying to teach my children that. What are you doing? I'm cutting a cucumber. Tell me the meaning. What sort of meaning do you find in it while cutting a cucumber? Why? So that I can train their brains in that topic. Unfortunately, in patriotic communities such as ours, big KPIs are imposed on us as soon as we are born. Macro KPIs, be good for the country. A male is born, I hope he'll be a worthy soldier. The child takes up a sport, play in the national team. Now, stop! Maybe, micro targets. Maybe he should smile, feeling fine today. Smiling. Micro goals included people who can find meaning in their lives, in their businesses. The skill to find meaning in what they do is very important for HR. I always say this to the young. Do you have a purpose manifesto? Most cannot express. It is there, but he cannot express it. And I ask them to write it down and post it on the wall. On the walls of my children, they have their purpose manifestos written. Okay, so of course they change every month, but it's wonderful. At least they think, and they come and say, I want to change it like this, or help me in the articulation of this, and I help them out. But that's important. Finding a meaning is important. Finding meaning in uncertainty, and again, the adventure of the M's: mineral, metal, molecule, materials, microchip, and here, multidisciplinary and curiosity. These are in my notes. Ahmet Hocam? Akshin Bey said something important. On top of that, you know, you cannot contribute to anything. However, when I listened to that from an academician's perspective, here's what I thought. What sort of a labor force are we expecting? First is, and this is an important task for the universities as well, vis-a-vis equations with many unknowns, one should be able to go to a solution through using their wisdom. Such complex equations with several independent variables, once they see that, they should not freeze. They should be able to devise an approach to that. We need people like that. That's first. And the other one is, of course, the founding principles of our university, and very importantly, multidisciplinary individuals. Here's what I thought. Thank you for enlightening us, Akshin Bey. Murat Ukcan. I'll finish with Yasemin Hanım. In addition to what's already been said, especially there's a lot for the universities to do. As Sabancı University, we're trying to do our due, especially data analytics, decision-making, energy-related. Many classes are integrated into our programs. We can do more, of course. Here, another point is industry collaboration for our students and other professionals through the perspective of the university or through sectoral experience. There's a lot for them to learn. Professional master programs, or such as Sokar Turkey with the leading companies of the sector. They should collaborate in different groups on different participatory levels. We should increase the number of such trainings. There's a lot to learn from the energy sector. Not just mechanical engineering or electrical engineering. They need industrial engineering, computer engineering, and a geopolitical expert. So people working in different fields especially should be attracted to this sector, I think. Again, multidisciplinary, and we're exactly there. Sabancı University, right on point. And industry. Industry collaboration is important for our university, Turkey, and the world. Yasemin Hanım, as we conclude, on top of everything that's been said, not for 25 years later, HR-wise, my problem is to solve the current era. Energy sector is a cool sector. It attracts all skills, and they should be working on different areas of the sector. As a sector, within the next 20 years, that we have a lot to do. And here, too, the skill, as far as areas where we have trouble finding people, power electronics and digital. Really, colleagues who have added these skills to their majors, they will be creating meaningful outputs. There will be good business opportunities for them. Our company is looking for 20,000 employees within the next 3-5 years. As far as long-term, the issue of meaning, without knowing what was going to be said, I had thought of it as meaning. The more people can express their own colors as individuals, the more they can put a distance between themselves and digitization. They will find their own meaning. They will find the reason for their existence in the world. In our sector and in any area they'd like to be present in, they'll be successful and they will create the impact they're looking for. Thank you very much. We're nearing. Have we reached the end? Shall I wrap up? Okay, then very rapidly. Thank you very much. Elçin Bey, Yasemin Hanım, Ahmet Hocam, Murat Hocam. From different perspectives, we have made a tour of the horizon. Of course, Fatih Bey had very important, valuable messages, the age of electricity, critical minerals, but risks entailing those critical minerals and how we should address those and how we should work to respond to these in time. We talked about the European energy issues and how Europe is lagging behind China and the US. And the current situation of nuclear energy and the future perspective from Fatih Bey. And with you, this closely has to do with the topic. I had anticipated this flow. So it was exactly like I imagined: energy security, electricity, geopolitical. We came and went within this triangle, but when we draw this triangle, AI comes in it, battery-like technologies go in it. I think we have been able to touch upon many topics. Of course, the end will be more in mind. Meaning, finding meaning among uncertainty, being able to create meaning, being multidisciplinarian, industry academy collaborations, then human resource, maintaining it and preparing it towards the future, which will make more resilient, more future-proof. Future for the energy is important for our country, for the region, and for the world. Thank you very much for your